emanations from this material world. Like the other day, I was hearing a report from Delhi, and they were saying that just living in Delhi means every day you are inhaling as if you are smoking 3 packets of cigarette. Somebody who is smoking 3 packets of cigarette every day, the same kind of effect you have just by breathing in the open air in Delhi. So just by being in a situation like that, one gets contamination. This is external contamination. But just by being in material world, we are getting such contamination. And somehow the nature of this material world is nothing good comes on its own. Rather, the nature of this material world is everything tends to fall down. Like we study the law of gravitation, everything, whatever you put on some height, it tends to roll down, it tends to fall down. So even our consciousness, even our attitude, even our character tends to lower down in its stature when we stay in material world. The effect is like that. Even parents, when they raise children, they are so cautious that children should not get any bad habit. Mm. By default, children learns bad things quicker than good things. And I also see in my home, I have some cousins who have children. So I see that the children, they pick up bad things very quickly. And when you teach good things, it takes long time, because bad habits, they come on their own. This is the nature of this material world. But now, when we came to Krishna consciousness, we have to see that how much it is important to cultivate good consciousness. Mm. Even if we have good association, if our consciousness is not good, then we will not have the influence of that good association. This is very important. Even if we have the best association in the world, even if we have the best temple in the world, even if we have the best devotee guiding us in the world, if we are not in the right attitude, if we are not in the right consciousness, what happens is the association doesn't influence our lives. The association won't appeal in our lives. Therefore, we have to be very, very cautious where our consciousness is flowing. I was studying one literature of Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur, and he was emphasizing on this point. He was telling that consciousness can only serve consciousness. It's very important. Krishna is Chaitanya. He is supremely conscious. And we as souls are also conscious. What is the barrier between us and Krishna is this material body which is not conscious. Is this material nature which is not conscious. Is this rascal mind which is not conscious. This polluted intelligence which is not conscious. So if we have to serve the supremely conscious Krishna, then we have to rise above the contaminations of material body and mind. And there comes the role of hearing Krishna Katha, because it helps to build the consciousness. See, when we see in the material world, generally people go by externals. How we find out that somebody is very pious? We may say, suppose we go to Walmart or Target, and there we see somebody is applying nice tilak, and maybe he's having some beads on his neck. We'll immediately say, oh, he is a very pious person, because finding such person in America is very, very rare. So we find somebody is pious or not generally by externals, but in deep consideration, if we go in spiritual life, we'll find that external doesn't matter. It's all about where our consciousness is flowing. Devki and Vasudev, Krishna's parents, they were in jail. As soon as Krishna was born, Vasudev had transported Krishna to Nandagaon, and they were in jail, and there was no facility to celebrate Krishna's appearance. But their consciousness was so attached to Krishna, so pure, that they were they were celebrating Krishna's birth and activities in their mind. Vasudeva was donating thousands of cows in his mind. Devaki was preparing elaborate feast for the Brahmanas, and they were having such big festival on the appearance of Krishna in their minds. But now we can think so many Janmashtamis have passed. Many of you must be new, some may be old. You must have observed some Janmashtami festivals. We are in the middle of devotees on those auspicious days. But still, are we really so conscious as Vasudeva and Devaki were in the jail? Maybe not. Because that is the level of Vasudeva. Vasudeva means above goodness, it's pure consciousness. On the other hand, Duryodhan was seeing Krishna face to face. Duryodhan, when the battle of Kurukshetra was about to happen, before the battle, Krishna went to Hastinapur as peace messenger, and he went in front of Duryodhan, and Duryodhan saw Krishna's elaborate opulence. Krishna showed his Virat Roop, and he saw so many demigods, so many elements of this material world, spiritual world, different incarnations, everything in Krishna's form. So Duryodhan actually saw Virat Roop, which Arjun also saw. But Duryodhan concluded that Krishna is a magic player. Krishna is not not God. Krishna is a magician. So this was Duryodhan's conclusion, because his consciousness was so degraded that even though Krishna was standing in front of him, he could not appreciate his presence. So we have to be very much considerate that where our consciousness is flowing. And hearing means changing our internal consciousness. This internal consciousness is very important. When we have this proper consciousness, then everything in Krishna consciousness will be relevant to us. Everything in this world will become relevant to us. Our acharyas have told there is nothing like material. There is nothing like material. Srila Prabhupada said in his purports, a pure devotee has power to turn every single object in the material world into spiritual object. That is called Yukta Vairagya. The principle of Yukta Vairagya is a devotee engage everything in Krishna's service. He doesn't see anything not in relation with Krishna. That is Krishna consciousness. Like what we learn in this world, the knowledge of this world is called Vidya. Knowledge in Sanskrit is called Vidya. Apara Vidya means knowledge of this world. Para Vidya means knowledge of the spiritual world. Para means above. Para. Apara means not above. Belongs to this material world. So Apara Vidya means material Vidya, material knowledge. Para Vidya means spiritual knowledge. So Vidya is not material or spiritual. Vidya becomes Apara Vidya when it is not related to Krishna, and same Vidya becomes Para Vidya when it is related to Krishna. Sometimes people say, oh, what is the use of so much reading and hearing? Why so much emphasis on lectures? After all, bhakti is the element of heart. After all, bhakti is emotions. After all, bhakti is our flow of devotion. So why we have to be so much jnani? Are we on the path of knowledge? Actually, we are not on the path of knowledge. But this same knowledge becomes the knowledge of the spiritual world when it is related to Krishna. It actually invokes our dormant love for Krishna. It makes our mati more focused on Krishna. It makes our love enhanced for Krishna. Like in Vrindavan, the gopis of Vrindavan are uh, the highest pinnacle of love. They are the best devotees of Krishna. Of course, they are not entangled in karma and jnana. They are free from all material foundations. But still, when it comes to hear about Krishna, they leave everything and they discuss what Krishna did today. When Krishna comes back from forest and the Gopas discuss among themselves what Krishna did in forest, the gopis of Vrindavan come out of their homes and hear with rapt attention what they are discussing. So this makes their devotion more enhanced. So we can imagine if gopis of Vrindavan have that kind of inclination to hear Krishna Katha, how much we should be eager. See, until unless this Krishna Katha doesn't go inside, as I was sharing, our internal consciousness doesn't improve, it doesn't purifies. And as a result, even though we are in the middle of best association, the association doesn't have any effect on us because that association will only penetrate our heart when the consciousness will be conducive for receiving that association. Like, let us understand this with a study of pastime of Chitraketu. There is a nice story of Maharaj Chitraketu in Srimad Bhagavatam. See, he was a king with thousands of queens, and he was very, very attached to have a son. But the destiny was not in his favor. He was not having any son. He was very, very morose. His agony was increasing day by day, and he was very sad and upset that he was not having any son. So day and night he used to just think how to get a son. In the meantime, his spiritual master Angira Muni came. Now, generally, what is the job of a spiritual master? A spiritual master is not Amazon. Spiritual master is not Best Buy. Spiritual master is spiritual master. Spiritual master is there to reconnect our lost relationship with Krishna. He is not our order carrier. So when Angira Muni came, Chitraketu was morose, and Angira Muni asked him, "What happened? Why are you morose?" And Chitraketu told his uh, the status of his heart. He shared that I am very eager to have a son, but I am not having it. I tried everything, but I am very morose and unhappy. So Angira Muni said, "Look, in your destiny, you will have a son, but the same son will be object of your happiness, and the same son, the same child will be the object of your distress. Now tell me, you want to have this son or not?" And Chitraketu was so obsessed with this desire to get the son that without any thought he said, "I need a son. I need a child. Now it brings me happiness or distress, I'll see it later." Now, in this situation, Angira Muni had to bless him that, okay, so be it. Now imagine if he would have just left it on the spiritual master that, "My dear spiritual master, you know the best. What is best for me? Whatever is best, please give me." Then he would not have any problem in the future. But what happened is he had the son, and soon after he was born, his stepmothers gave him poison and he died. So practically, the joy which he had to get by having the son was so little in comparison to the shoka or the distress of heart which he got when the son died. Why I'm telling this point? Because our desires sometimes stop us from getting the real mercy of a spiritual master. If we simply hear the message purely, the consciousness will get purified and we will be able to get the best benefit of association. Because this hearing, it cleanses the heart. Shinvatam Sakatha Krishna Punna Shravana Kirtana. It cleanses. As soon as we hear Krishna Katha, it cleanses the heart. And when the heart gets cleansed, then Krishna becomes uh, very obvious in our lives. We see Krishna's hand in everything in our life. Hmm? Because this sense of hearing is so powerful that this is the only sense which works till end of one's life. And even in day-to-day life, we know when we sleep, who wakes us up? There is no alarm till now who shakes the person. There is no alarm till now who will put a gulab jamun in our mouth. There is no alarm till now which will open our eyes. There is only one kind of alarms in this world which creates some sound, and by hearing the sound, we wake up. In the same way, we are sleeping in the material world. And the only thing which can wake us up from the lap of Maya is the name and katha, the pastimes of the Lord. Jiva jago, gora chand bole, kato nidra jao maya pishachi rakole. How long we will sleep in the lap of Maya? What can wake us up is Krishna Katha. When the battle of Kurukshetra was over and Yudhishthir Maharaj did the uh, Pindadan for all the injustors and all everybody who died in the battle, Krishna took Yudhishthir Maharaj to Bhishma. Bhishma was so pure, so powerful, so virtuous. Krishna wanted Yudhishthir to learn from Bhishma before Bhishma departs from this material world. And there is a long chapters in Mahabharata where Bhishma is giving knowledge to Yudhishthir. And there Bhishma tells a very wonderful point to Yudhishthir. Bhishma says that there are five kinds of talks in this material world. Five kind of talks. The 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 lowest kind of talks are blasphemy. And incidentally, they are the most popular ones. When two people meet, what they do is they blaspheme or they criticize or they backbite the third person. They are the most famous talks, but they are the most lowest kind of talks. Then Yudhishthir says, then what is better than that? Then Bhishma tells, better than blasphemy is useless talks. People can talk rubbish, but it's still better than blasphemy if they are not criticizing anybody. So somebody can just share their wonderful, wild ideas. That is much better than blaspheming somebody. So that is fourth category of talks. So the Yudhishthir said, I don't want to blaspheme, neither I want to speak useless. What is better than both of them? And Bhishma says, better than blasphemy and better than useless talks is speaking truth. Speaking truth is better than these two categories. Yudhishthir said, oh, this is quite surprising. Why? Because if speaking truth comes on the third level, what is better than that? Till now, we understood that speaking truth is the best thing. And even in Bhagavatam, we hear Satyam Param Dhimahi. Satyam Param, the, the, the best of all the worshipable objects is Satya. Of course, that Satya there denotes Krishna. But what is better than Satya? If I am speaking truth, people say I speak truth no matter what. So if Satya is best, what is better than Satya? What is better than truth? Then Bhishma says, speaking pleasing and encouraging words is better than truth. If we are speaking truth and that is demotivating somebody, if we are speaking truth that is depressing somebody, if we are speaking truth that is hurting somebody, that truth is not appreciated. Krishna says in Bhagavad Gita, Anudvega karam vakyam, satyam priyam hitam chayat. Yes, we have to speak truth, but that truth has to have three more parameters. It has to be priya, it has to be pleasing, it has to be hitam, it has to do some good to somebody, and anudvega, it should not agitate anybody. So when we do that kind of pleasing and inspiring words when we speak, that is better than speaking truth. Then Yudhishthir was very eager. Then if such pleasing and encouraging words comes on the second level, what is on the top? What is the best kind of talks? Then Bhishma tells best kind of talk is speaking and hearing about Krishna, who is standing right in front of you. When we speak and hear about Krishna, that is the best kind of talks. Everybody is looking for some or other enjoyment. We are in material world because we want to enjoy, we want to be happy, we want to be satisfied. Hmm. Like uh, every day we can have rice and dal and we can still survive, but then also we make different food items. Someday we make dosa, someday we make uttapam, someday we make samosa, some kachori, some dal bati, some different items. Why? Because it's not just about nourishment of the body, but it's about enjoying the food. Like every day we can wear white kurta and white dhoti, but still we have big malls and big stores for purchasing clothes, because it's not just covering the body, it's about enjoying the clothes. So whatever we do, we like to enjoy that object. But on the contrary, we get more and more entangled, we get more and more suffering. But let us see what is the effect of hearing Krishna Katha. The effect of hearing Krishna Katha is Tushyanti cha ramanti cha. One becomes completely satisfied and one becomes completely drowned into the nectar of Krishna Katha. It gives immense pleasure to the heart, immense satisfaction to the heart. This is the effect of Krishna Katha. When we speak about you and me, that is time pass. Sometimes people meet and they just do time pass. But when we discuss about Krishna, that is called pastime. So now it is up to us. We want to do time pass or we want to discuss pastime. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati was deeply impressed by only one quality of our Srila Prabhupada, that is to hear Krishna Katha. Sometimes Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur would speak for hours, hours, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours, uh, hours and hours of Krishna Katha, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur used to tell. And it would become a little difficult for many disciples to hear for that long. Some disciples used to leave and do some other activities. But Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati noticed that our Srila Prabhupada, when he was a Grihastha, and he would go and associate with his Guru Maharaj, he would hear for hours, not even moving an inch. And when after 10 years of associating with Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, finally Srila Prabhupada's name was recommended for initiation, Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati immediately recognized, yes, I know this boy. And what he said? He likes to hear. He likes to hear. Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati appreciated this one quality in Srila Prabhupada, and he entrusted whole Krishna consciousness movement in the hands of Srila Prabhupada. So this is the glory of having attachment to hearing Krishna Katha. Because the Guru, the spiritual master, understands that yes, now he is understanding the importance of the moment. The importance of Krishna consciousness movement can only be understood when we hear with rapt attention. Srila Prabhupada would say, I am like a karate master. You must have heard about the karate when people learn how to defend themselves. Srila Prabhupada said, I am like a karate master because by Krishna's mercy, I know where to hit a person to kill its ignorance. Karate master had not is not supposed to be um, very strong. He knows where to hit. That is the trick of karate. It's not about strength. It's about the trick. It's about the exact location where to hit. In the same way, spiritual master may not know the what NASA is doing. A spiritual master may not know what different governments are doing. A spiritual master may not know the recent technology, but spiritual master know the exact location where to hit to kill our ignorance. That is the glory of spiritual master. Srimad Bhagavatam says that those who have spiritual master, they are fortunate. But more fortunate are those who get opportunity to hear from spiritual master again and again. Because that is our real eyes, Shastra Chakshu. We can't see Krishna, we can't see spiritual nature, we can't see anything spiritual without hearing. Sukha became immortal, Sukadeva Goswami became immortal just by hearing Krishna Katha. On the other hand, when Lord Shiva was reciting Srimad Bhagavatam, Parvati, by the time third canto came, Parvati slept and she could not get the nectar of Srimad Bhagavatam. So we have to be very, very eager. Parikshit Maharaj is the best example. Parikshit Maharaj is not like, okay, now I got the curse, so let me sit and hear. What to do? I have no other work. 7 days I have to hear. No, he was super excited. Sukdev Goswami was testing Parikshit Maharaj again and again. Like in sixth canto, Sukdev Goswami just told by the end of fifth canto, Parikshit Maharaj heard the description of hell. And in the beginning of sixth canto, Parikshit Maharaj uh, told that you told that atonement is important to rectify from the sin. But I am a king, I know when a person commits some sinful activity and he atones, again he commits the same sinful activity. Then again he is sent to the jail. Then again he comes out from jail. Again he commits same activities. How to understand that? Then Sukadeva Goswami appreciates, my dear Parikshit, you are very eager to hear. Then he tells the pastime of Ajamil, where Krishna's pure holy name can rectify the malice of the heart. Krishna's pure holy name can destroy all ignorance of heart. In the same way, ninth canto, Sukadeva Goswami was describing different pastimes of the dynasties of Ramachandra and Krishna Chandra. And in very short, he describes the pastimes of Krishna. And he said, okay, almost 3.5 days passed because Parikshit Maharaj was having only 7 days. So already 3.5 days passed. Parikshit must be hungry, Parikshit must be thirsty. So Sukadeva Goswami finished Krishna's pastimes very brief. Then Parikshit Maharaj said, no, 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 don't think I am hungry. Don't think I am thirsty. Just carry on. I want to hear Krishna's pastimes in detail. And that led to the detailed description of Krishna's pastimes. The first 9 cantos of Srimad Bhagavatam are 9,000 verses. And 10th, 11th, and 12th cantos, these 3 cantos, are another 9,000 verses. We could get these descriptions because of the eagerness of Parikshit Maharaj. So we have to understand that as much we are eager, the spiritual master or the representatives of the spiritual master will give us Krishna. If we are not eager, we are not going to get Krishna, because Krishna is not a cheap thing. We can't play video game of escaping Krishna. Hmm? There's so many video games. Sometimes there is a video game where you have to ride a car. You must have seen children doing that, or you must also have played video games in your childhood. Like you're driving a car in a video game, and you have to escape the obstacles. You don't have to hit anybody, so you're going this way, that way. In the same way, when we were young, we used to play one video game called Mario. So in that Mario, you have to jump and cross the whole level, and you have to reach a castle, and you have to escape from different obstacles. If you hit any of the demon coming in between, then you will die. So we don't have to play such video game with Krishna. Oh, now is Prashad, I will go. Now is Kirtan, I'll go. Oh, lecture, my God, I don't have to go to the lecture. Somehow I escape. That time I'll do some service rather. Or now is the time for book reading. My God, it's very boring. Let me do something else. We can't play that video game with Krishna. If we play that video game with Krishna, Krishna is the best cheater among the cheaters. He's the best cheater. If we'll try to cheat him, he will cheat us rather. So we are not cheating Krishna. Actually, we are cheating ourselves. We have to understand that by hearing the same Krishna Katha, Rukmini got Krishna. He heard from Brahmana how beautiful Krishna is, how magnanimous Krishna is, how virtuous Krishna is, how powerful Krishna is. And just by hearing that descriptions of Krishna, Rukmini became so attached to Krishna that she wrote a long letter to Krishna that I just belong to you. You come and take me from this clutches. So that led Rukmini to become the principal gopi of principal queen of Krishna. In the same way, Prahlad, in the womb of his mother, heard about Krishna. And the same hearing of Krishna's description led Prahlad got so attached to Krishna that even though the father was trying to kill, the father was trying to do everything possible for making Prahlad forget Krishna, Prahlad was not ready to get uh, to leave Krishna consciousness. So such attachment comes simply by hearing Krishna Katha. So we have to understand that the purpose of our Krishna consciousness movement is that we hear more and more about Krishna and get attached to him. Srila Prabhupada repeatedly told in his lectures, in his purports, that this purpose of Krishna consciousness movement is that we provide people an opportunity to hear. The purpose of our temples is that we are providing opportunity to hear Krishna Katha. So we as members of Krishna consciousness movement, we should be very eager to take the benefit of this Krishna Katha. And as much benefit we will take in our lives, we will understand that this Krishna Katha is taking us closer and closer to Krishna. Each day we should analyze, am I going closer to Krishna or I am going away from Krishna? There is no standstill. Either we are going closer to Krishna or we are going away from Krishna. Like in some malls, you must have seen the accelerator, or in airports, there are accelerators. So if you are going on accelerators, by default taking you down. Suppose you're standing on accelerator, which is coming down, it's automatically taking you down. Now, if you want to go up, you have to walk against the motion of the accelerator. In the same way, material nature by default is taking us away from Krishna. By default, our consciousness is going away from Krishna. Now we have to analyze, are we doing sufficient hearing and reading? Are we doing sufficient chanting? Are we giving rapt attention to the spiritual life that we go closer to Krishna? If we can do that, that will be the success of our life. If we cannot do that, then we will lose this opportunity. Hare Krishna. Jagat Guru Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktivinoda ki jai. So if you have any comments or questions, we can discuss for another 5-10 minutes. Any
Yeah.
questions?
Anyone has any question, you can ask.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare
Thank you for the
Krishna,
wonderful class, Prabhu.
Hare
It's
Bol.
very nice. It is really giving energize to continue consciousness. So, Prabhuji, one question is we are normally working here, and how do we maintain or how do we balance our consciousness? Because morning we are going for some and meeting different people. So, how do we balance material life and spiritual consciousness?
Actually, spiritual life means balancing moment by moment. If you see the history of devotees, there were very few devotees who left everything and living in forest. Very few devotees. Most of the devotees who are described in Srimad Bhagavatam and other scriptures are those who are living in the society and dealing with the world. Like what we think, Parishit Maharaj, when he was ruling the kingdom, he has to deal with the world. When Yudhishthira Maharaj was ruling the kingdom, he has to deal with the world. When Bharat was leading the Ayodhya in absence of Lord Ram, he has to deal with the affairs of the world. So all devotees were described in the Shastras, Ambarish Maharaj, Parishit Maharaj, different, so many examples. They were dealing with the world. But what gave them strength is their solid connection with Krishna. In our context, if we can give quality time to Krishna in the morning, that will give us strength to deal with the world during the daytime. Like in morning, if you can give sufficient time to chanting your rounds attentively, to hear Krishna Katha regularly, that will give strength to deal with this world. Like Krishna tells in Bhagavad Gita, Padva Patram Padam Pasha. So, like a lotus flower isn't in the water, but it's not touching the water. That is how we have to live in the material world. On the other hand, when we feel that our consciousness is going low, then let us recharge it. Mm. Like this is my phone. So now, when I charge it one time, it goes for few hours. But when I'm seeing the charging is low, when it's going low, what I have to do? I have to recharge it. Now, some phones can give you backup for 12 hours. Some phones can give you backup for 8 hours. Some phones can give you backup for 2 hours. Some phones can give you backup for 15 minutes. And some phones, you have to plug in and talk. There is no battery. You have to plug in and talk. So it will depend on person to person. In the same way, when we feel that our consciousness is going low now, let us recharge it right away. In the modern world, we have so many facilities. We have lectures online. We have Bhagavad Gita, Srimad Bhagavatam, everything on our gadgets. So whenever we feel that now my consciousness is going down, this person is polluting my consciousness, or this environment is affecting my consciousness, let us give 2 or 3 minutes hearing the spiritual sound vibration or reading one page of Bhagavad Gita. That will again reboost our spiritual energy. So as soon as we feel that our consciousness is going down, we have to be very, very alert that we run to Krishna immediately. And these simple things like reading 1 minute, hearing 1 minute at that moment can recharge us, can bring us back. Ajamil saw that prostitute and the person, the Shudra, for just a sight, just one sight of that prostitute and Shudra affected Ajamil's consciousness so much that he forgot everything taught by his father and he became so demonic in his life. So imagine if a material sight, if a material association can have such an effect, then what effect can have when we have spiritual touch. Just lava matra sadhu sangha sarva siddhi hoy. So when we are in the material world, dealing with the material world, dealing with material people, our balance is first of all strong morning sadhana. There is no alternative to morning sadhana. We have to give time to our chanting. We have to give time to our reading. We have to give time to our hearing. And secondly, whenever our consciousness is going down, we have to be very, very alert to recharge it immediately. Is it okay, Sijit Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhuji, very good example, Prabhuji, about phone and all. I understand, Prabhuji. Thank you.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you, sir. Hare Krishna.
Any other question?
Yeah, Prabhuji, I have a question. Dandavat Pranam, Jai Prabhupada. Yeah, amazing class. So this consciousness, like if at some, like you mentioned that how when the consciousness falls down, we have to immediately recharge it.
Yes.
Sometimes even if we like, I noticed that consciousness is definitely fallen down. There is some difference, and even if I'm trying to recharge my consciousness, and it is not happening immediately, what should I do?
Like when there is some diabetic patients, they take insulin
Mhm.
and they take it themselves.
Mhm.
But when the sugar level goes too high, what happens is they fall down. And the family members, what they have to do, then they will not try to give them insulin themselves. What they will do, they will take them immediately to the hospital. So we have to understand that our own sadhana, and if it is not working, if it is not helping us, let us go to a senior Vaishnava and take their help. We should be honest in our bhakti. Best thing we can do in our bhakti is being honest. Whenever our consciousness falling too down and our sadhana is not giving us immediate effects, let us go to a Vaishnava, a senior Vaishnava, a Satovar Vaishnava who is on higher level of consciousness than us, and admit that Prabhu or Mataji, I am not feeling inspired, I'm not feeling encouraged, I'm not feeling enthusiastic. My Chetana, my consciousness is going down. So please help me. And that time, a Vaishnava can raise our consciousness. This is very important. We all know philosophy. Who doesn't know philosophy of Krishna consciousness? You spend a few months in Krishna consciousness movement and you get most of it. But when we are in need, then the Krishna conscious Vaishnava, he can only establish us back on the level of pure consciousness. Therefore, we need association, like-minded association, encouraging association. So whenever we feel too low in our devotional life, please feel free to go to any senior Vaishnava whom you relate with and express your heart with full honesty that I am feeling this distress. Please help me to get back to the pure level of Krishna consciousness. Please help me to get back to the instructions of my spiritual master. Please help me to get back to the spirit of Krishna consciousness movement. When we take shelter of such Vaishnava, then they can immediately give us that encouragement and inspiration to restore our consciousness. So that is like going to the hospital. And in day-to-day life, when we cannot every day go, then our sadhana is there to help us, of course. But when it's becoming too difficult, we should be very, very eager to take shelter of a senior Vaishnava.
Yeah, probably. So, I just have further question. One of Srila Prabhupada's purport, it's mentioned that in order to attain the supreme goal of life, one has to engage in Krishna consciousness. And Prabhupada mentions in ecstasy 24 hours a day. So, can you speak something on that?
that You can elaborate better than me. But I would say recently, uh, I had a function in my home, and the function lasted for 3 4 days. And I was noticing that my family members, they were so much in festive mode. They forgot eating, they forgot sleeping, and they were just engaged in making arrangements about the program and receiving the guests and making sure everybody is comfortable and having the nice flow of programs, enjoying dancing, everything. So I was wondering, this is Krishna consciousness. What a devotee does, he becomes so engrossed, so absorbed in thoughts of Krishna. He becomes so ecstatic with thought of serving Krishna that he forgets everything else. This is fasting. This is upavas. It's not that we are leaving this world and we are missing life when we are coming to Krishna consciousness. No, it's like we become so absorbed in thoughts of serving Krishna that everything else become secondary. Everything else becomes secondary. Eating becomes secondary, sleeping becomes secondary, our own selfish motives become secondary, our desires become secondary, and we just think that we have to serve Krishna. And even before serving Krishna, it comes to serving a devotee, because we read and hear to establish relationship. When we establish relationship with a person, then we are ready to do everything for that person. Like Srila Prabhupada disciples, we can imagine the level of their dedication. They read Srila Prabhupada books. That is of course a motivating factor for almost all Prabhupada disciples. But after reading those books, they understood that their life is for Srila Prabhupada's pleasure. And that understanding of a disciple, that his life is for serving spiritual master, is true ecstasy. Then these disciples gave everything for pleasing Srila Prabhupada. Everything. Who can imagine young boys and girls going in different parts of the world, establishing different temples and centers, and inviting Srila Prabhupada to visit their centers? This was extraordinary service this Srila Prabhupada disciples did. Like I heard from my spiritual master one time, one young boy, 17, 18 years old, he was running with a globe in his hand and he wanted to meet Srila Prabhupada. And these big sannyasis and leaders were meeting Srila Prabhupada, and this boy was trying to come in. And Prabhupada asked, "What do you want?" And this young boy, 17, 18 years old boy, he was holding this globe in his hand and he was saying, "Prabhupada, just tell me where you don't have sent your disciples. I'll go that part of world and I'll open a Hare Krishna center there." This is ecstasy. This is full dedication 24 hours a day. When we are so attached to a person, when we are so attached to serving spiritual master that we forget everything else. Hmm? In Guru Vandana, every day we hear that if we have that rati, that attachment, rati also means ecstasy. Rati also means attachment. Rati also means inherent desire, extensive desire. If we have that rati, say se uttamagati. There is nothing better than that. That is uttamagati. That is best destination. So when we have that kind of desire to serve a personality, that turns into ecstasy, and that turns into 24-hour dedicated service for years together. So that way, a disciple becomes completely encouraged to serve the Lord. Does that add some thoughts to your point, Shyam Kishore Prabhu?
Yes, bro. One last thing. Like, I'm
Yeah,
sorry for taking so much of your time, but
no.
last thing that so is it true that personal example is much much better than preaching or correcting?
See, both have their own role. Of course, personal example is much better than speaking. At the same time, sometimes the audience is so dumb that they fail to recognize personal example. Then the teacher has to instruct also, that is preaching. So to raise person to the level of understanding personal example, one has to preach also. Like for example, Srila Prabhupada was following all Vaishnava Sadachar. But when he came to US, the level of consciousness of people was so low that they can't understand Vaishnava Sadachar. They can't understand example of Prabhupada. They can't understand humility of Prabhupada. They can't understand different qualities of Prabhupada. So Prabhupada had to preach and bring them to the level where they can understand the example. So both have their own roles. Of course, personal example is better than anything else, but there is also need of preaching. Therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu told Haridas Thakur that some people preach, but they don't have personal example. They don't have acharan. They don't have personal. They don't follow. And some people are very good in following the principles. Their acharan is very good. Their character is very high, but they can't preach. But you are best because you are following as well as preaching. So both have their own role. We can't say which one is better, but according to the audience, the preacher has to decide.
Yeah, that was very enlivening that you said that how the purpose of preaching is to kind of lead them to the personal example. And I was thinking that you're speaking about consciousness, and it's very clear that your consciousness is completely Krishna conscious and spiritual master conscious. So I
I'm
hope that
just
by
repeating
your
what I
by
heard.
your I hope that by your blessings, I can transform my consciousness after having heard this class.
Hare Krishna. You're already doing so nice preaching and service for years, and you are inspiration for many, including me. So I pray to Srila Prabhupada for a good health, and we beg your blessings for our own devotional life. Hare Krishna.
So anyone has any other question? Prabhu's mother. Okay. So and we'd like to hear from you more and more, but
Hare Krishna.
since your health is not very supportive, so I hope you take rest and take medicine, and hope you get well soon.
Thank you so much, Prabhu. Hari Bol. Shyam Kishore Prabhu ki jai. Samaveta Bhaktavrinda
His
ki
grace
jai.
Krishna Kishore Prabhu
Srila
ki
Prabhupada
Jai.
ki
jai.
Hare
Just one thing last thing I would like to say, that like Krishna Kishore was mentioning that how renunciation means actually absorption in Krishna consciousness. So with my own eyes, I got to see that when Prabhu was serving spiritual master, I could see that how he was so absorbed that many times he would not eat, he would not sleep, and days and months would pass, and hopefully by his mercy I can also develop 1 millionth of that kind of absorption. So Prabhupada says that to be absorbed in Krishna consciousness requires actually special blessings of a pure devotee. So I could see that how he received the mercy, and he's carrying that mercy and expanding that mercy to others also.
Krishna. Whatever good is there, it belongs to my spiritual master. Whatever bad is there, it belongs to me. Hare Krishna. Srila
Okay,
Prabhupada
thank you
ki
very
jai.
much.
Hare Krishna.
Thank you very much. Dandavat Pranam. Jai Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Dandavat
Krishna.
Pranam.